It's Monday night, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Anglo-Italian pod with our Monday. Before I introduce all that room, remember to follow us on Twitter, at Instagram, at Anglo-Italian pod. As always, a co-host, Mr.
Ruairi. Hello. Sorry, I was waiting for you to say my name. I'm here, everybody. And we are, of course, who else are we joined by?
Joined by a happy hammer. Mr. Todd, how are you doing? I like the smile on your face.
Since about 6:30 yesterday evening. It's really loving it, so it's a great time for me to be on the pod. Thanks for inviting me, guys.
Anytime, man. Anytime you want. Also, you listeners, whenever you share thoughts about your team, whether after a great win, like in Tom's case, feel free to DM. We'll invite you officially to the pod. Premier League review, Serie A review, but since I think there is only one place to start, Rory, I will leave you the honor of the introduction.
Well, here we go. So we're going to look through the Premier League. And of course, as Tommy said, there is only one place to start. The London Stadium on Sunday evening. I think last time when I talked to Tom before the game, you were a little bit nervous, right? A little bit worried about what was going to happen. Did you see that coming? And how great does it feel to beat Liverpool?
I think I would have taken a draw probably before the game. Last season against Liverpool was very, very disappointing, actually, because we were in good form. They weren't so well, and we kind of just rolled over for them and made it quite easy. But this time it was absolutely exceptional. But we're in a position at the moment where I wouldn't bet against us against anybody. I feel that confident about it now, which is very unheard of as a West Ham supporter. But it's it was just incredible. The lads were all brilliant. It was just an unreal all-round performance, I think, and much deserved win. Where
did you get to watch the game, Tom?
I was, as I was saying to Rory, I think before we started recording, I was actually on a stag do all weekend. So it was one of those Sunday afternoon lulls after 2 or 3 nights of constant drinking. So we were just sat around a table with a few of my mates, just kind of trying not to fall asleep whilst we were watching the game. But as soon as the West Ham game started, obviously I was very much awake and partaking in it, especially sitting in as a Liverpool fan sat next to me the whole time as well. So it was very, very enjoyable. And then basically watched the game, then came home. So it was a nice end to the weekend for me.
So very, very quickly before I let you guys really dive into the issue, West Ham, after 11 games, 7 wins, 2 draws and 2 losses, 23 goals scored, 13 goals against. That makes them the 3rd best attack in the league. 23 points on even with Manchester City, who are currently 2nd, and only 3 points off top. Can we talk about a title challenge? This is my question, and I will let you guys just bask into it.
From my perspective, I think a title challenge is a little bit premature, 11 games in. But certainly, I think as the first 10, 11 games, I think we're one of the best teams in the league. I think if we have a good run with injuries, and we don't, specifically with Rice and Antonio, there's absolutely no reason why we can't sustain where we are now and potentially push for top 4, and then maybe even have a late rush towards the end of the season. You never know with what happened with Leicester a few years ago. But I think title's probably a bit far, but I think we do have a solid chance at top 4 if we can keep the key players fit.
Well, I was looking at the odds. It's only 66-1 for West Ham to win the title, so not worth. Maybe worth piling on. But I think we should talk. I think we should talk about the game a little bit. So West Ham got off to a really bright start. Now, somewhat Steve has just jumped in the comments saying I didn't like Klopp's attitude after the game. Now we know Klopp is a notoriously bad loser, but what did you think about the goal? I thought it was fairly innocuous from Ogbonna, and he was just going for the ball.
I think he just jumped for the ball. He didn't back into the keeper. He didn't push the keeper. He just jumped up to challenge for the ball, which is fair enough. It's his right, but you never know really with those situations, because keepers get a bit too much protection than they perhaps should do. I think sometimes if you go anywhere near the keeper, especially when he's jumping for the ball, the refs do quite often back them up. But I didn't think there was anything in that fall at all. One of them just made a legitimate play for the ball, and I think Klopp and Alisson were just clutching at straws really in that instance.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And after that, I don't know what you thought, but I think West Ham maybe they didn't quite know what to do after scoring so early.
Yeah,
and I
don't think we were very good in the first half. The first half, they didn't play very well, I don't think, and they only really came out to play again after Alexander-Arnold scored. I thought we let Liverpool. I didn't think Liverpool looked like scoring a goal really, but they had a lot of the ball. They looked like they were potentially going to go up a couple of gears and start penetrating, and which Well, we eventually got a goal from a set piece. I don't think we looked like conceding, but we were very kind of slow to get forward in the first half after we scored, which would have been quite worrying if we carried on in the second half. But thankfully, after that point, we managed to pick up the tempo and we gave as good as we got, at the very least, for the rest of the game, which was really pleasing to see.
Definitely. Now, there was a decision that maybe West Ham were quite lucky with. What did you make of the Cresswell tackle? I thought he was very lucky to stay on the pitch.
Yeah, I thought it was one of those that I think it wouldn't have got overturned either way. I think if the ref had sent him off, he wouldn't have overturned it. But I also think it's one of those ones that probably looks. I don't think there was a lot of force in it, and it was also made a lot worse because his foot slips over the ball as he went over. But yeah, his foot was probably a bit too high, but I think he was just about got away with it because he kind of slipped on the ball and he got the ball first. And I don't think there was a lot of force in it either. I think there was another challenge over the weekend, wasn't there? It was
it the Holgate one?
Yeah, that was similar, but there was a lot more kind of oomph in that one, I think, and there's a lot more risk to the player. That's where I think Cresswell's probably just about got away with that one. But yeah, I think it's just one of those that's about 50-50. If he'd sent him off, I don't think VAR would have overturned it. But but I also don't think it was that bad. But I could have seen why he could have been sent off as well. It's one of those tricky ones, I think.
Rory?
I think sorry. My internet is coming and going, guys. You know my internet is terrible. But we should actually move on to the second half. And this is where West Ham really came into their own. The counter-attacks were absolutely clinical. And you probably could have had a few more. Like Antonio there was a few where he was through on goal, his touch let him down.
Yeah.
Like, how has David Moyes improved this team from last year?
Yeah, well, I think Van Dijk saved Liverpool 2 or 3 times when he obviously just because he's so good. But it's Klopp was a bit bitter about it after the game. He said it was like back to being the old West Ham again and stuff. But I think that's really, really unfair on the tactics Moyes put in place. I think we had like 31% possession of the game, but we had as many clear-cut chances as Liverpool had. They might have had more shots, but we certainly created as many clear-cut chances as them, if not more. And the way that Moyes has kind of developed the team over his 2 years in charge and kind of works on the transitions of play, works on set pieces, goes from front to back incredibly quickly, just kind of and then you see the attacking players, as soon as we lose the ball and the other team turn it over, they're all coming back and they're all getting behind and in shape again. But then when we won the ball back, we've quickly got 4 or 5 men in the other team's half. So it just seems to have the balance absolutely perfect. And from listening to what the players are saying when they're in interviews and listening to kind of what other fans are saying and what pundits are saying, it's all kind of stemming from Moyes and his backroom team. He's actually got the players completely drilled. And he's got them all pulling in the right direction. And his recruitment policy second time round since he came back has been absolutely impeccable. He's been signing players, not only with the ability, because signing players with abilities probably the easy bit, but he's been signing players with kind of the right mentality and the right kind of work ethic and players that'll fit into the team. So we've not got anybody in the team at the moment that's not playing for the team, or even the players that are on the bench. They all seem kind of quite comfortable being on the bench, coming in for the cup games or coming on the bench and influencing the game that way. So he's just created a really, really positive ethos to go with him being a very, very good coach. He's just been absolutely amazing, considering not many fans really wanted him, including myself. He's certainly turned everyone round. It's probably, in fact, it definitely is the best time to be a West Ham fan in my lifetime in terms of kind of consistency and performance and league position and everything else.
Wow!
So he's been incredible, really.
And 2 out of 3 goals came out from corner kicks. So is this been a strength of yours? You mentioned the set pieces. Is it one of the strengths of West Ham this season?
Yeah, it's something that they work on a lot, I think. And last season, I think they scored the most goals in the league from set pieces, and I think they just work on it a lot. He's brought Kevin Nolan and his backroom staff, and I think him and Pat Nevin, who's one of the other coaches, I think they work kind of really hard on set pieces and kind of positioning but then I think Moyes said it himself yesterday. I think he said, I mean, the main thing is you got people that can whip a good cross in, and you've got players like Bono, you've got Dawson, you've got Antonio, you've got Souček, even Rice now, players who want to get into the box and really attack the ball and with intent. I know that sounds quite simple, but a lot of players don't do that. A lot of players will just wait for it to come onto the head, whereas our players are kind of attacking the ball and really kind of making the most of those set pieces, which is amazing to see, really, because it gives us multiple ways of being able to score goals, especially against a team like Liverpool, where you're not going to have loads of the ball.
Is Angelo Ogbonna gonna go down in West Ham's history, in your opinion? After so long, it feels like, I don't know. I remember him when he played in Italy. He's an Italian national, of course. Then he was kind of like chased out of the country after a few bad seasons with Juventus. I wanna say he had a slow start at West Ham, but now he's been there for quite some time. So do you think he's become a household name for the Hammers?
Yeah, he's certainly a fan's favourite, and even in even last season when we were obviously really good, I think until he got injured, I think he got injured in like February, March time. I think he was probably very, very close, if not probably the favourite to be the player of the season at that point.
But yeah.
Obviously, he then got surpassed a little bit because he missed quite a big chunk at the end of the season. But he's been a revelation, certainly in the last 2 or 3 years. I think there was he started off reasonably well, and then there was kind of a period where he was a bit dodgy, a bit unreliable on the ball, and a little bit ropey. But in the last 2 or 3 years, he's been impeccable. He's been our best defender, one of our best players, certainly. So yeah, he's going to go down as certainly a fan's favourite. And if he sticks around for another couple of years, even go far as say as a legend, because he has been really good, and he's also popped up with some very important goals over the years for us as well.
Yeah, Ogbonna, L'Angelo Nero was his nickname. The Black Angel, because his name is Angelo. There is a question for you, Tom, from the Hopeless Wanderer pod. They ask, do you feel David Moyes can progress West Ham? I feel this was the thing he struggled to progress with Everton beyond challenging for top 4. What do you think?
I think he's progressed us an exceptional amount since he's come in. We've gone from 2 years ago, we were relegation fodder. That's not exaggeration. We were in the bottom 3 when he came in midway through the season. So he kept us up, and then obviously last season was incredible. Finished 6th, only 2 points off the top 4. And this season, kind of, as I said before, I think if we have a lucky run with injuries, especially with Antonio and Rice, because they're the 2 we can't replace, I think we'll have a really good shot at top 4 this season. Whether he can push us on beyond that to like a title challenge, I think that's probably a step too far, I'd say, at the moment, but it's looking like there might be some more investment coming into the club soon. So if they back Moyes further and he continues with his recruitment policy, which has been really, really good, bringing in the right players for the right money, right mentality, all that other stuff I was talking about before, then why not? But I think right now, that's anything beyond a top 4 push, which is exceptional in itself, is a bit premature. I think that's a bit jumping the gun a bit, but certainly if he's given the right resources and right time, I don't see it over in the next 2 or 3 years why we can't push on further, because he's doing everything right at the moment.
And just before we move on, because we're going to have to talk about someone else, unfortunately, Tom, but you've talked about Rice and Antonio. Now, the player that impressed me the most yesterday was Ben Rama. I really do think he's coming into the league more, which, like, when you talked about Moyes' recruitment being so good, which of the players do you think have almost been the best signings that he's brought in?
That's a hard one. I'd probably say Souček's probably been his best signing, just because of how consistent he was last season, the goals he got. But I mean, you could really roll the dice between Souček, Bowen, Ben Rama. Even Zuma. I mean, he's still early days in his West Ham career, and he signed him in the summer. But he's been absolutely incredible for us so far. He's been, I'd probably argue, one of the best signings in the Premier League this season. Yeah, he's been absolutely brilliant. So he's not since in his second spell, he's not put a foot wrong transfer, right? So it's really hard to pick one. But I'd probably go Souček if I had to choose. Nice. Yeah, Ben Rama's been amazing. But the thing is with Ben Rama, we've got a few players that could come in and replace Ben Rama or play that position or do it. Whereas Rice or Antonio, we don't really have anybody that can do the jobs they do for us. So they're the 2 we need to keep to wrap up.
Yeah, definitely.
So right after this is kind of unprecedented for the pod. Right after I predicted that Liverpool would win the Premier League, there you go. First loss of the season. Rory, I'm going to ask you very quickly before we move on to the other games. Where does this defeat leave Liverpool? Who was at fault, if anybody was at fault? Because I watched the extended highlights, and it looked like a pretty hard-fought game. And in the end, I felt like it could have ended kind of both ways. No results would have been wrong, in my opinion. But Liverpool, we talked about them. They're super informed. They're one of the most informed teams in Europe. What does this defeat mean for them?
Well, it's weird because they drew at home to Brighton and now they've lost to West Ham. Like, they're having a little bit of a wobble. And for me, it just seemed like their defense, like West Ham could break through their midfield so easily. There was a moment when Van Dijk was just like staring at the rest of the team, like, where are you guys? I need your help. He was like shouting. It was like he was the only guy there. And it just felt like their defense was so easy to walk through. When they brought on Thiago, I think it made very little difference to the game. And I think it probably gave West Ham a bit more space. I think they just seemed a bit disorganized, and West Ham were there to take advantage.
Yeah. I think Alisson should have done better for two of our goals. Really, he should have the first and the second goal. Certainly, where he was directly culpable for, I'd say. And if your keeper's letting in 2 goals, he shouldn't do. You're never going to have much.
But that goes also. That is also to praise West Ham's schemes, I guess, or tactics from set pieces, because it doesn't happen often that you see Alisson leave his line at the wrong time, or being caught off the line like that. So that is also praise, I think, to West Ham's attack.
Yeah.
Do you think, Rory, this international break can be beneficial for Liverpool?
Yeah, I think it's going to be beneficial for a lot of teams, right? A nice break to take a step back and see what's going on. I think, look, Liverpool have got Arsenal at home after this, so I'm sure they'll feel pretty confident going into that one. I think Klopp just needs a minute to maybe calm down, look at the team, and see what he can do better. I think it's timed well for them, as I said, with a bit of a wobble with Brighton and West Ham, but they'll be fine. We know they'll be fine.
What a nice little segue, Rory. I know you don't want to talk too much about this team from North London because you don't want to jinx it, but are you sure that Klopp is looking at that fixture with a smile on his face? Because if Arsenal were to win that game, that would mean that they would overtake Liverpool in the standings and they would have 1 point more than them. So Arsenal, undefeated in a bunch of games, 4 consecutive Premier League wins. Rory, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Tom. Title challenge? Because you mentioned it last night during the Inter game.
Title challenge? No, not quite. Look,
come on.
We have had a very comfortable run of games. So we've played teams like Norwich, Watford. We've played teams we're expected to beat. The Tottenham result was fantastic. The Leicester result was fantastic. But after the international break, this is when the test really starts, because we've got Liverpool, then we've got United. Look, with the team, we're seeing a lot of progress. We're seeing a lot of, I keep using the phrase green shoots, right? We're seeing the beginnings. There's still going to be wobbles, but we're playing really nice stuff. And I can see what Arteta's trying to do. It's a nice place to be. But unfortunately, I've got PTSD from many traumatic trips to Anfield over the last couple of years where we've been 3-0 down, 4-0 down in 20 minutes. So I'm definitely not getting my hopes up. But I do think it'll be more competitive than we've been at Anfield for a while. I think we will give them a game. I think we will be in it until the end. Touch wood, right? Yeah, we're doing all right. It's a good place to be. Emil Smith-Rowe called up by England. Fully deserved. Well happy with that. And yeah, things are going well. Hopefully Arteta can keep it going. And we're kind of like Tom said about Rice and Antonio being so key for West Ham. If they disappear, then maybe they'll struggle. With Arsenal, our entire first 11, if any of them go, we don't have any real cover. So it's like we can't have any injuries, really. So,
but yeah, one thing that besides the squad depth that might not be the best one in the league, damn, Rory's frozen for good. It's like a nice man.
He's not coming back from that, is he?
Let's just have a chat, me and you, Tom. No, I was just thinking that I think you don't see it often in modern football that a manager, well, if you take away the Ole scenario, which is unprecedented in world football, but you don't see it very often in modern football, Rory, that a manager is given a chance after such a poor start to the season. And I feel like the Arsenal board were very patient with Arteta, and they really, really believed in him. at times when maybe the fans were starting to lose faith in him. What do you feel like, Rory?
Yeah, well, they made it very clear that there was going to be no change, kind of like United are doing with Ollie, right? They were very, very clear that there's going to be no change at the top.
That's like ludicrous, though, what's going on with Ollie. We'll talk about it, but it's
as long as it continues. That's all I'm going to say. But I think
it's very difficult, though, isn't it? Sometimes with those sort of situations with managers, because it's difficult to make judgment as fans because you don't see what the players see and what the kind of owners perhaps see. Because I think there's sometimes you can see even during a bad run of results that the players are still kind of working for the manager. They're still following his tactics. And then sometimes you can even see when people are winning or doing a little bit better, the players aren't really pulling in the same direction. So you can kind of see it was already on the decline. So it's looking at results. Obviously, results are the most important thing, but looking at that and nothing else, it does kind of give you a bit of a false view sometimes with the manager, because it all comes down to the old cliche about has he still got the dressing room behind him? If he hasn't, even if the results are okay now, they're going to go down eventually. Whereas if the results aren't great now, but you feel like the players are all playing for him, he's bringing in the right players and things are improving slowly, then it's worth sticking with him. And a lot of the time, the only people that really see that are people that are directly involved in the club. So it's always a bit tricky to base it purely on results, I think.
And I know go for it.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. And I think the Arsenal board always made it clear they were going to stick with Arteta. This whole trust the process thing. You could see that the players the players do like him. The players do like the football they're playing. We can see an increase in kind of commitment. Even if Obers comes and goes every so often, the rest of the squad are fairly fully committed. So I think you can see that they are all behind him. And I love this. Like, we've got the youngest squad in the Premier League. Like, I love this. Seeing the young players and the progress, I really am enjoying. So I'm glad that the board stuck with him, even though I will admit after the Man City game, I was thinking, right, does this guy need to go now? Because that was pretty horrific to watch. But since then, it's been really, really good. No complaints. Keep it going, Mikel. If we can get top 4, that would be fantastic.
Rory, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and I'm going to take you to the future very quickly. We are traveling all the way to the 12th of February, 2022. Chelsea take on Arsenal at Stamford Bridge.
Oh, God.
What if I read you Arsenal's future lineup? Do you think it's going to be likely? Saka, Lacazette, and Smith-Rowe behind Dusan Vlahovic. There are rumors about the Serbian possibly making a move from Fiorentina all the way to London. Do you see this happening, Rory? Is this realistic, or is this just talks?
I think his agent is using us to wake up the, in quote, bigger teams. It's apparently we've had an offer accepted, but he's been fairly open in saying he wants to go to a bigger team. So unlucky Tottenham, you're definitely not getting him if we're not getting him. But it would be nice. It's nice to dream, right? Dusan in an Arsenal shirt. I think it's more likely we go for Isak at Sociedad. I think he's a more kind of realistic target and one I'd be very happy with. But hey, if we got Vlahovic, then I'm fully signed up #1 member of the Arteta fan club, because Jesus Christ, that would be an incredible signing.
But look, I think, and I don't know if Tom agrees with me or not, but Arsenal are a household name in the Premier League. They've struggled over the past few seasons, big time. They've become, at some points, kind of the joke of the league even. But at some point, their reputation will need to be restored. And I think that there will be a moment when a big name decides to make the move and kind of starts the trend of rebuilding Arsenal. So, well, about Vlahovic, it's not even sure he's going to actually leave in January. By the way, all these news come after Tommaso predicted that he's going to be Serie A's top goal scorer. But I think that there is a moment is going to come when big names are going to start going back to Arsenal and acknowledging that maybe that's the team where to go, and you could make history in sort of like rebuilding the reputation of such a big club.
Yeah, I think you're only going to get those sort of players when they see kind of progress, right? And they see see things moving in the right direction. They're not going to sign if Arsenal are kind of languishing in mid-table like they have in the last couple of seasons, and there's a lot of infighting. There's no real system. There's no real kind of identity. But it does appear that they are slowly getting that back now. So I think they'll probably need to get back into Europe before they start being able to sign players of that caliber. But that looks like it'll happen, whether it's the Europa League or the Champions League. But they just need to start showing kind of like progress, like I say, and be an attractive proposition to one of those big players. Because in the previous 2 or 3 seasons, they've not really been a club that a player that could probably take his pick from any club in Europe would want to sign for. Mm-hmm. They'll always be able to sign good players because they're a big club, they've got lots of money and everything else. But to get those elite level players at that particular time in their career, Arsenal haven't done that. Arsenal haven't really done that in the last 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, possible exceptions like Ozil, Aubameyang,
Sanchez,
yeah. But that's not if Arsenal want to be back where they were before, winning leagues and competing in the back end of the Champions League. You need to be signing those sort of players kind of season in, season out. And that's where Arsenal need to get to, and they need to make sure this upward trajectory they're on now is kind of sustained. And hopefully Arteta has a bit more batting than Ollie, because Ollie's kind of done similar with United. He's got them to a point, and then he's kind of got them. He can't go any further. So that's what they'll be looking to do, is kind of make sure they keep pushing on further. Because a player like that, he's not going to want to sign for a team that's maybe going to get in the top 4, maybe not. Mm-hmm. He's going to want a team that's kind of up there fighting for the title every season. Well, certainly if he's got anything about him, that's what he wants.
Yeah.
And Tom, nice little segue. Rory, I let you go. Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2. Manchester United had more shots against their own target than against the opposition's, and they think that stat sums it all up. Bring it home, Rory. What happened at Old Trafford again?
Honestly, I think this was more embarrassing than losing 5-0 at home. The fact that City was so comfortable. I think Ollie now has 21% of United's losses at Old Trafford in the Premier League are under his reign. Like you said, they had more shots at their own keeper than at Man City's. I think it was Kevin De Bruyne created more chances than the entire United team. Rodri had more passes than the entire United. Like, it was just a complete domination from beginning to end, and United just look rudderless. Like, it is. I think I've seen Andy McBride, friend of the show, said it feels like every team in the Premier League is playing better football than them at the moment. And I think that's not a bad summation of them. Like, it really was. Like, do you remember when City beat United 6-1? That was like the power shift, right? That was the moment when City were like, we're here. Now it feels like City are just a galaxy away from where United are. What did you make of it, Tom?
I just think they just seem to be bereft of confidence, and there's no kind of tactical plan when they go out on the pitch. He just kind of seems to think he can just pick because they've got a very talented squad. Mm-hmm. He seems to just think that he can just kind of put them on the pitch and they'll just kind of win him games. And they might do that against kind of the bottom half teams, but against teams that are kind of like City and Liverpool, they'll just run rings around them, and they have done. So he just seems to be tactically behind everybody else, and he can't adapt over time because he's gone on good runs, and then when teams have figured him out, he's had no answer, and he really struggles to impact games during the game as well. He can't make change in the game which have a positive impact. So it does feel like his time's up, and I think he probably needs to go sooner rather than later. Otherwise, he'll really start tarnishing his reputation. But it doesn't sound like they're planning to make a move anytime soon.
Yeah, that's the thing. It feels like they keep on kind of repeating, like Ole's kind of going to stay at United.
He's done this 2 or 3 times now, hasn't he? He's gone through really bad runs, and then just when he appears on the brink, he pulls like a really good run of results out. But then it never really lasts long enough for it to be anything of note. But I think he's done a good job there to a point, because I think the position they were in when Mourinho left, it wasn't a good position, and the whole atmosphere on the club seemed to be quite negative. And just being a club legend, and I think he's kind of galvanised the players. He's got a bit more out of certain players and got them to a point, but he's definitely reached his limit. I don't think he's a talented enough coach or man manager to get them any further than top 4 potentially every season. It looks like they might have missed out on that this year. So,
but if they do stick with him, and it seems like they are going to stick with him, where do you think the season goes for? Like, how do the players react to the rest of the season now? Because if you've been like routinely kind of beaten at home and you're the kind of laughing stock a little bit, how can Ollie turn this around? Because it looks like he's going to be back in the job for the rest of the season.
I think they'll turn it around eventually to a point, and they'll put a run of results together, and they'll finish in a reasonably high position, whether that's 4th, 5th, 6th. I don't know, but they will. They've got the players to do it. But anybody could go in with that squad and finish in the top 6, top 8. That's not Manchester United are arguably the biggest club team in the world, so they need to be pushing for the title, pushing for the Champions League every season. Otherwise it's just not good enough for them. And Ollie's never going to get them to that point. And he's been backed in the transfer window. He's bought in players. Why they didn't prioritise a defensive midfielder in the summer is baffling, really, isn't it? Why? Because that's the missing piece, really. If they had that and a tactically competent manager, then they would be comfortably. I think they'd be pushing for the title. To be honest, there's only kind of 2 bits that jigsaw. If you look in every other position on the pitch, they've got world class players in pretty much every one. So it's just.
So it's besides being United's 4th loss in the Premier League this season, it's also a very important win for Manchester City as they cut the lead, Chelsea's lead, down to 3 points since Chelsea dropped points at Burnley. Vidra drew the game at the 79th minute. I kind of removed completely from my life the name Romelu Lukaku. I don't follow him on Instagram anymore. I don't type his name on Google anymore. What is going on? He's still injured, right? He hasn't played in a few games. And even before that, he wasn't really scoring.
Yeah, well, we knew last season Chelsea obviously had a lot of attacking players, but they struggled for that focal point, didn't they? And that's why they signed Lukaku. And it's obviously become apparent as soon as he's out of the team that they really struggle to kind of create chances in certain situations. And Burnley, they had a very slow start to the season, but the last kind of 3 or 4 games, I think they've really kind of started to turn some of their positive performances. I don't think they've been bad really all season. They've just struggled to score goals and they've made a few mistakes. But they've started to look like a good, solid team now, as you'd expect from the Sean Dyche. And they're not an easy team just to walk over at home or away now, because they seem to have their tails up a little bit. And Arsenal and Chelsea really should have put that game to bed kind of well before they conceded an equaliser, but they just didn't have that. I mean, if Lukaku was on the pitch, you never know for sure, but I think they'd have been kind of 2-3, 4-0 up, and they would have been comfortable.
Yeah, it was absolutely one-way traffic for the entire game until Burnley got that equaliser. But yeah, I think Lukaku went 7 games without scoring before he was injured, so he's definitely not been in form. And yeah, Chelsea do struggle to finish their chances. So great result for Burnley. Chelsea, a bit of a slip up, and yeah, Man City, as ever, there to take advantage, and City do look scary again. They do really look scary. Rodri is a player that's finally getting a bit of plaudits as well, thankfully. But yeah, like we said, I think we said it last pod, Tommy, there's always players that take periods to kind of be the headline player, and I think this is Rodri's moment to be in the headlines.
Yeah, he's a perfect player for that system, isn't he? Because he kind of he just controls the tempo of the game. He passes. I think he makes a ridiculous amount of passes every game. He just completely dictates the play, and he's quite good in tackles, and he kind of moves the ball on, kind of moves it forward very quickly. And he's that's why they signed him. He's doing the job they signed him for, right? And he's kind of coming to the fore a little bit more since obviously David Silva left a couple of seasons ago. I think he's kind of assumed that role, although he does sit a little bit deeper than Silva did.
And Cancelo, yet another assist. Rory.
That cross as well. That cross was beautiful, but I don't know what Luke Shaw was doing. I have no idea what Luke Shaw was doing.
But I know, Rory, you'll want to talk about a few more games, starting from Crystal Palace 2, Wolves 0. Former Arsenal legend Patrick Vieira having a great start to management in the Premier League, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to very quickly say, unbeaten in 8 games, beating Wolves 2-0. I am loving seeing the scenes down at Selhurst Park. The atmosphere there always looks incredible, and it's good to see them playing positive, attacking, aggressive football. Vieira's doing a really good job. I just wanted to give him his props because, he deserves it.
Their last loss came on September 18th against Liverpool, which is pretty understandable. And after that, since then, 4 consecutive draws, including against Leicester and Arsenal, and then 2 wins, one against Manchester City and the other one this very weekend against Wolves. Good luck, Patrick. It looks like things are heating up.
Absolutely. And just as the international break, before we move on to Serie A, as the international break hits, sacking season has begun. A quarter of the managers in the Premier League have now been sacked. And this week, it was the turn of Daniel Farke at Norwich. Despite getting his first win, is booted out the door. And I think we all saw this come in. Dean Smith has been sacked as manager of Aston Villa.
And he's gone again.
Sorry, Rory, repeat that. You froze for a second.
My internet's terrible. The rumours are that Villa are going for the Denmark manager, which I think is a really interesting move. And Norwich are apparently in talks with Frank Lampard. So make of that what you will.
I don't think the Denmark manager is going anywhere before taking this team to the World Cup next year.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
But before we move on to Serie A, because Tom will have to leave us because he actually plays football tonight, I wanted to ask you guys.
I attempt to.
You attempt to? Well, that's what everybody tries to. You guys are going to watch West Ham in Vienna in 2 weeks' time, correct?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we've got obviously West Ham are in Europe properly for the first time in about 20 odd years. I mean, they've been in the qualifying rounds a few times and then not managed to get through to the groups in the last like 10 years. But this is the first time they've been properly in Europe, certainly in my lifetime. So I kind of figured it might never happen again, although it was looking like it might do next season. But I wanted to make sure I got to at least one away game, and I kind of picked Vienna as one of the group games that we're going to go to. And then Rory's coming along as well. So we're going to make a weekend of it in Vienna, which will be good. Although we are going to be sat with the home fans in Vienna because I couldn't get anywhere near a ticket in the away end, unfortunately. So we're going to be taking a bit of a risk in there. But judging by Twitter and the Facebook ticket groups I'm in, we're not going to be alone, that's for sure. There's going to be plenty of other West Ham fans invading the home end. So we'll see how that goes.
It should be good. I am crazy excited, and I am going to take the Arsenal cover off my phone. I am getting a different phone cover so that I can go full undercover around the West Ham fans. But I'm pretty excited. It's going to be great. A European away day. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be quality. I'm looking forward to it. If you told me this was I'd be able to do this 2 years ago, I would never have believed you. So it's incredible that we'll be able to do it, and looks like we're going to qualify. We've already qualified. It's just whether we qualify first or second. So I'm really excited to see who we get in the knockout rounds as well. So that should be another good away day, hopefully, as long as it's not in like Kazakhstan or something.
And that will be, imagine what a nice little segue. That will be for Rory only 4 days after being officially back in the San Siro Curva to watch Inter Napoli. So Rory, in 4 days, you get to see Inter Napoli and then Rapid Vienna West Ham. That's going to be quite a week for you.
I can't wait. I genuinely can't wait. This is like my dream, traveling around Europe watching football games. Yes, please.
The only thing that we needed to add to the dream is getting paid to do so, right?
Any sponsors out there? We're waiting. Any sponsors? We're waiting.
Oh, yeah. Talking about sponsors, we ever talked about our sponsor at Sports Club Maps. You can find them on Twitter and Instagram. And guys, we're working on it. Giveaways are going to be back soon.
It's coming.
But we were talking about Serie A, and again, I kind of wanted to go back to the predictions that I had on the Friday episode. So I said Vlahovic top goal scorer, and now there are rumors of him being sold in January. And then I said that Genoa definitely going to be relegated. Genoa now have a different ownership. It's not the Preziosi ownership that would sack a manager and rehire him at the end of the season. This ownership is kind of making a statement, and they've just brought in, ladies and gentlemen, Serie A legend Andriy Shevchenko. Man, I'm excited about this. This feels like a statement from Genoa and the new ownership. Like, we're not fucking going anywhere. We're going to stay in Serie A, and this manager better like turn the fate of the team around. What do you think about the appointment, Rory?
I think it's a really exciting appointment. We've seen him do a really good job with Ukraine at the tournaments they've been at. They've been a very difficult team to beat. They've been very structured, disciplined. I think coming into a club like Genoa in the situation that they're in at the moment, I think he could come in and just really just make them more solid, make them harder to beat. And I think just for the players to be around that name and someone who's achieved that much in the game, it could be the boost that they need, right? And I think I'm just crazy excited to see Andre back in Serie A. I'm just crazy excited for it.
Man, he's a player that gets mad respect from everybody in Serie A. Like even the opposite, even the Inter fans. It's not like they're gonna clap him when he gets to the San Siro, but there is a lot of respect. He scored in so many derbies; it's insane. I think he's got like a derby record. But no, I think it's a great appointment, and there are rumors. But then I think the media are going crazy about possible like loans to Genoa, players from very good teams that are not quite finding room. I read about Pulisic to Genoa on loan until the end of the season. I don't know, but if I was thinking about it, if I was a player, I know that I'm going to go back to Chelsea. That could be a fun experience. Like you move from like a team that is kind of like pushing for the title in England and you go rescue another team from Serie B. That would be kind of exciting, I think.
Pulisic would be a hell of a loan signing. My God, that would be a hell of a coup, no? But then you get to play with Mattia Destro. Everyone wants to play with Destro, man.
Right.
Everybody wants to play with him.
Yeah, I might have won the Champions League, but my greatest achievement was playing alongside Mattia Destro. Genoa this weekend, they drew. I'm taking it from far away to get all the way to the derby. Genoa drew 2-2 against Empoli on Friday night. I said that Genoa are getting a lot of penalties, and they get yet another one. Their captain, Domenico Criscito, hasn't failed yet from the spot this season. Great news for me, since he's in my fantasy football team. On Saturday, we had the Spezia Torino. Torino, we've thoroughly covered them. They're one of the most good-looking teams in Serie A. I wouldn't say in form, but most good-looking teams in Serie A. However, they pick up a loss against Spezia. Very important points for Spezia. They're now on 11, 2 points above Genoa and Sampdoria, who is currently in the relegation zone. And on the same day, we had a very annoying game. Juventus won, Fiorentina 0. Rory, I know you watched it. What happened there? That fucking sucks.
I fell asleep. That was a terrible, terrible game. It was an awful game. Juventus, we've said it before. I'm going to say it again. They are the most boring team in the league. They are wasting the talent that they have in that team. I spent a lot of money on Chiesa, Allegri, and you are single-handedly ruining my fantasy season. I've had enough. That game was terrible, like terrible. They just, we know Fiorentina are a decent team, but for at home, your only ambition is to ruin the opposition's game. I just think it's really, unambitious, uninspiring. And I think maybe we've talked about it as well. Allegri hasn't really learned much from the last time he was in football. And it's just exactly the same all over again. But maybe Juve will win what he did, doing the same things, right?
Yeah, and he seems to always like get a hard on from winning 1-0 at the death of time. He was all smiles and giggles in the press conference room. It was like they asked him about the game. They were like, "Don't you think Juventus fans want to also see a team that is playing good football?" And he was like, "Well, ask the Juventus fans if they're happy with the 3 points tonight." And he burst out laughing. And I'm just like, wow, this is really what you guys have become. Nice. Winning 1-0 at the 93rd minute, thanks to fucking Juan Cuadrado. Fiorentina did have quite a few chances too. They didn't manage to convert them. I saw a very big chance with Saponara, kind of a difficult ball to keep down, went over the crossbar. Chiesa hit the crossbar, I believe, towards the end of the second half. But besides that, Juventus didn't have much drive to win that game, it felt like. However, they still won. This is their 5th win in Serie A this season. They're on 18 points, on even points with Fiorentina, only one below Roma in the Conference League area of the standings. Atalanta win.
Tommy, I'm going to have to cut you off very quickly because I think Tom needs to go. You need to go, right?
I'll love you and leave you guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Always a pleasure. And you need to score a hat trick now, right?
Yes, I will. I'll report in.
And you will lift your kit and it says the Anglo-Italian pod below.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've got Ogbonner on the back as well.
Hey, good luck to West Ham and thank you so much for joining us, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure as always.
Anytime. Bye-bye.
Sorry, Tommy, I had to cut you off there. I could see you was waiting to go.
Yeah, no, I was looking at the results on my phone. But yeah, Atalanta win 2-1 against Cagliari. Yet another assist from Davide Zappacosta. Now, I don't know why sometimes I want to change my fantasy football lineup and take him away from the starters. But man, he's on one. He's really come back, and really substituting either Adeboer or Gosens is no easy task for anybody. He's already got 3 Serie A assists this season, 1 goal. He's a starter. He's doing great. The thing that kind of Zapata in great form, he's the winning goal scorer. He's already on 7 goals in 10 games and 2 assists this season. What kind of is interesting about this game is that Gasperini, despite having Luis Muriel on the bench, decided not to play him for the 2nd consecutive game. In the press conference after the game, he said everything is fine with the player. We just have a history of players coming back from injuries and underperforming. We think we have learned from our mistakes, and now rather than playing him and then kind of assessing how bad of a performance he did, we're just going to wait until he's fully fit, and then he's going to play again. And I thought that was very good from Gasperini to be so honest about it.
Yeah, it's good to see him being up front. And also, we know, like, for that Atalanta system and the way they play, you need to be fully fit. You can't be a passenger in it. We talked about it with the United game, right? The fact the intensity dropped off and he wasn't able to press, it does make the rest of the team suffer a lot. So I feel like, yeah, it's good to see the up front, and it's good to see them kind of making a realization, I suppose. But Zappacosta's a weird one. I thought after Chelsea, I thought his career was kind of done, honestly. I thought he very rarely played for Chelsea, and I thought, oh, maybe he's just going to peter out. But it's good to see him having like a revival, like a big revival as well.
He already had a very good half a season, I believe, at Genoa last year. And now at Atalanta, it's his old club, and it feels like he's fitting in perfectly. Moving on to Sunday. Oh, my God. Now, Rory, this is something that I love doing. I don't know if it's big in England or not, but when I was younger in Italy, it was kind of big to listen to the games on the radio, because a lot of people didn't have pay-per-view and all that. And they listened to the majority of Venezia-Roma on the radio. And as I was driving in my car, I was just like, how many times will Roma manage to shit the bed? They shit it once again, and they are on terrible form. They've won only 2 of their last 8 games. They've won only against Cagliari on October 27th and against Empoli on October 3rd. And then it's also always been losses, 2 draws, but definitely something isn't working. Do you think Mourinho's time is limited at AS Roma?
I think this cycle of his keeps getting quicker and quicker and quicker, right? Like the kind of the optimism, the fallout, the depression, and then he starts looking like he's living in his car again. And he's already kind of getting to that point where he looks a bit disheveled, looks unshaved. And I think it really is like, yeah, he's becoming a parody of himself, right? He really is becoming a parody of himself. And for Roma, they just look all over the place. But Venezia, fair play, really properly making a stab at staying up. Buzio, absolutely killing it. Ethan Ampadu on loan, having a great time. They got some really good players in that squad and look like they're putting some building blocks in for the future. So exciting times down at Venice. Roma, if they get top 8 this year, they'll do well. Honestly, I think they really are going to struggle.
We shall see if Mourinho stays in charge much longer. For me, I know Steve Cole is writing on the chat, to see Mourinho angry is hilarious. I don't like it. It just like, it's like seeing an idol that you grew up with. Like, I don't know. It's like for my mom was in love with Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin. You know, the singer, long blonde hair, always shirtless. And right now he still does concerts and everything. My mom went seeing him a few years ago, and she was just like, it was so sad. It's like this fat old man who's drunk too much beer. Still a great singer, but kind of sad. Mourinho does not even have that. Like, he's starting, it's the cycle, as you said, it just keeps getting quicker. It's happening quicker than it happened at Tottenham, and they think that it could have been doing much better. Maybe this international break will be useful for them. They're kind of unlucky with injuries. They always have people injured, but also they cannot keep a lead. They also have a lot of bad luck, though.
They keep hitting the post. Hitting the post.
Tammy Abraham again hitting the post. Mourinho not even protesting anymore from the sideline. He was just sitting there the entire game, just like not smiling, not angry. I don't think he even got up to make the subs. I think it was his assistant, but I don't know. It's not looking good at Roma. They are now on 6th place, 2 points behind Lazio and only 1 point above Fiorentina and Juventus. Then we have Bologna picking up a clutch win against the Sampdoria thanks to Arnautovic, who is having a very good season in Serie A. Didn't he have a good reputation at West Ham?
Very good player, absolute pain in the arse. I think that's basically the summary of Arnautovic. Incredible player, but pisses everyone off while he does it. So I think he always has like a good spell and then things go sour. But it's good. I like him as a player. He is absolute box office. He really is entertaining. Great player, strong, skillful, can hit a ball, like really, really great player. And also, I really like that he has the Champions League. Doesn't he have a Champions League tattoo or something, despite the fact he never played in that Inter run? I'm pretty sure he has a tattoo, or maybe he has boots. I can't remember.
I have no idea, man, but he will forever be an Inter legend. I will never forget him arresting the starters for Inter Milan after the semi-final against Barcelona. They're in the tunnels of the Camp Nou in Barcelona, and he keeps popping up behind the players, like singing. And at a point, Maicon turns around and genuinely tries to swing at his face. And Arnautovic goes away and he's like, "Are you crazy?" And Maicon is like, "I told you, it's too much. Let me do the interview. Get the fuck away." But forever an Inter legend. On Sunday, we also had Udinese 3, Sassuolo 2. Udinese's first win in a very long time, despite deserving much more. They finally pick up the win. Lazio win the Lotito Derby 3-0 against the Salernitana. And then we get to the table leaders.
Finally.
Napoli and AC Milan, both halted by a draw. Let's start from Napoli. Verona are starting to become, how would you describe them, Rory? They're
a bogey team.
They're bogey team. Yeah. There you go. So last year, they're the team that with a 1-1 draw prevented Napoli from going to the Champions League. And now, again, with a 1-1 draw, they prevent Napoli from taking the solitary lead of the Serie A table. I did not watch this game. The goals came from Simeone. Again, 7th goal in 3 consecutive games. 7th goal in 3 consecutive games. You heard that right. And then Di Lorenzo drew it for Napoli. Osimhen looks constantly very lively. He hit the post with an impossible 180 spin at some point in the game, but Napoli were not able to close it out despite Verona playing with only 9 men in the last 5 minutes of the game. And then I made it on purpose the last game to discuss because I didn't want to talk about it too much. Inter Milan, AC Milan, actually AC Milan, Inter, 1-1, nothing changes. Inter are still trailing by 7. Rory, I let you go first. We were together. Maybe one too many beers were had last night, but what did you make of the game?
Today has been a difficult Monday. I think the first half was absolute chaos. The first half was all over the place. Penalties given, like just up and down mental. And then the second half was like a chess game. It was really intriguing. Both teams kind of calmed down. They were trying to figure each other out. I think overall, I think Inter probably had the better of it. And I think Milan were semi-lucky to get away with a point. But at the end, both teams had chances to win. I think Kessié missed a really easy chance. I think Inter missed a few chances. Yep. So I think it was really even, but I think on balance, Inter probably deserved it, but I really enjoyed it. Great game. Milan derbies very rarely disappoint. I feel like they're always pretty entertaining.
I feel like it's not always like that. We've been lucky in the recent years, but there have been a lot of boring AC Milan derbies where like the teams were studying each other for too long. This was a hard-fought game. Now, I just want to address AC Milan fans very quickly that say, oh, but last night's team was not really AC Milan because Mike Maignan wasn't playing and Theo Hernandez was disqualified. Right. I am pretty sure they were wearing a black and red kit. Fuck you, that was AC Milan. Let's move on.
Also, that's very harsh on them because that keeper made a bloody good save from a penalty and has been very good since he came in. He's been very good since he came in.
100% agreed. After the game, so we were with some French friends of mine. Believe it or not, I have friends from France. After the game, Rory went back home. We went to the pizzeria. I was smoking a cigarette before entering the pizzeria, and they received so much abuse from AC Milan fans. I was just like, we watched 2 different games. They were just like, you are lucky we scored only 1. And I was like, we even scored that one. What the fuck are you talking about? It was an own goal from Stefan de Vrij. So my takeaways from this game are the following. I'll start from Inter Milan. Number 1. I'm pissed off, guys. We've fucking lost 4 points now because of unclear of the penalty taker not being clear. Mm-hmm. So Calhanoglu takes the penalty. Brilliant shithousery towards AC Milan fans. Don't come to me telling me that he's a shitty man, because that's what Ronaldo, the phenomenon, did when he scored in the derby for AC Milan, after owing to Inter Milan the majority of his career. That's what he did. Akan, I loved all about it. But then if he scores the goal, why do you switch the penalty taker to Lautaro, who hasn't scored in a few games? This is the same thing that happened in the game against Atalanta when Di Marco took the penalty and he hit the crossbar. We've lost the 4 points now. If it wasn't for those 4 points, if it was for those 4 points, we would be below 3 points from the top of the table. So this is very important. It needs to be addressed. Inter Milan need to be more clinical in front of goal. We had 2 chances. Barella had an open goal in front of him, and he managed to shoot it where the defender was. Vidal also had a similar chance in the second half. Very low ball, just go high, right under the crossbar. We can score that one. That could have been the winner. About AC Milan, and the other thing about Inter Milan have grown in personality quite a lot. And what I saw in yesterday's game is that Inter Milan are not afraid to control a game. They have what it takes to control the entirety of the game. They did so in the second half. AC Milan looked very scary at the end. Once Bennacer came on for Krunic, a lot of AC Milan fans were talking exactly about this. They were like, why didn't Pioli start Bennacer from the beginning? He had one chance, and when him and Salemakers got on the pitch, everything started flowing much better. About AC Milan, my takeaways are the following. They've grown a whole lot since last season, because last season they got to the derby with the same excitement as today, but then they collapsed the 3-0 in that famous game where Lukaku scored and they said he was the king, right? But they've grown quite a lot, but at the same time, they didn't look like the most dominant team in Italy. If we're 7 points behind, you kind of want to show who's boss, right? And they never really showed that until the very ending minutes of the game. My final takeaway is that Inter Milan and AC Milan are going to fight for the title until the very last match day. It is to be seen what Napoli will do against against Inter, against AC Milan. They've only played so far, the big teams they've played are Juventus, but it was on the 4th match day. Juventus had just lost against Empoli. They were in complete shambles. I don't know how it would go now. They drew 0-0 against Roma. Now, once the international break is over, the first game on is Inter against Napoli, and we shall see how that game goes. If Inter win it, they'll consolidate their position, but I think it's important also for Inter Milan to finally win an important game. A draw against a draw against Juventus, a draw against AC Milan, a loss against the Lazio. It's time to beat the top teams in Italy if we want to make a statement in Serie A this season. That's more or less those are my takeaways. What are yours, Rory?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to be a title race right to the end. I think this was Milan's chance to kind of almost put it to bed, not completely, but to make a statement. They've missed it. I think Inter are going to be much more encouraged by this result than Milan will be. And we've kind of made it clear that we think Napoli, we hope they can stay in it, but we kind of expect them to bottle it at some point, unfortunately.
And we've underlined thoroughly that we don't think Inzaghi is the best at making substitutions. Last night was kind of the same thing as always. But we're growing slowly but steadily. I'll just say this, and if you're honest, you will probably admit the same, that once the news came that Conte was leaving, Hakimi was leaving, Lukaku was leaving, we were all expecting Inter to be doing much, much worse than they're doing now. So I think just already being 7 points below such teams like Napoli and AC Milan this year is already a big achievement. Now it's time to qualify officially for the knockout stage of the Champions League, maybe nibble a few points from AC Milan and Napoli, and it's very important to win the first game back after the break against Napoli. But I'm excited, and I think our team has matured a lot. A derby is always shitty to draw it when you had so many balls to close the game. When you had that penalty, beautiful save by Tataruzano, beautiful save. again, they need to decide who takes the penalties and have it be one person. That person takes on the responsibility. With Lukaku and Lautaro, it was very clear. One game, I take the first one. The other game, you take the first one, and then we alternate. That's very clear. But yesterday, again, there were talks for the second penalty. Who's going to take it, who's not going to take it, and that's going to just be detrimental. One last thing, Bastoni had a killer of a game. I told you at some point, doesn't he look like he's desperately wanting to assist or score a goal? It's all you want to see as an Inter fan. Somebody who tries so hard to score against AC Milan.
Well, when your centre-back is like cutting back crosses into the box, I was like, Jesus Christ, that's your centre-back. What's he doing? He was like marauding across the pitch. Incredible to see. A player that on the pod we've talked about a lot. We are big fans of Bastoni, so it's good to see him having a great season and a great performance in a derby. Like, what a guy.
And it's finally international break. We are going to cover all of that on Thursday, which is the day where the majority of international fixtures kick off. Italy have a very big one on Friday night. Make sure you tune in on Friday to listen to our pod. Rory, anything more to tell our listeners?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, tune in on Friday. Hope you enjoyed the show, guys. Thanks for joining us. And see you on Friday.
See you on Friday, and remember to follow our sponsor at Sports Club Maps, both on Twitter and Instagram, and to follow us at Anglo-Italian Pod on Instagram and at Italian Anglo Pod on Twitter. Thank you to Valeria, Slack musician, Hopeless Wanderer podcast, Steve Cole for showing up, and Chris Hamilton. Particularly fitting that he didn't show up today after the West Ham
He's
win.
there. It's Slack musician. Here he is.
Slack musician?
Yeah.
He's changed his name? That's him? Oh, all right. There you go. Talk to you later, guys. It's been a pleasure as always. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Bye, guys.